Pack it up, sweetheart. This pool's for paying guests, not welfare queens." Those words would echo in Officer Brad Kellum's head long after the headlines destroyed him. The woman he sneered at, dark-skinned, elegant, curves wrapped in a white swimsuit, didn't flinch. Her son's laughter faltered, a popsicle dripping down his trembling hand as Kellum loomed closer, grinning. "Room key now, or I'll have you both removed," he said, already reaching for her wrist like she was property. The crowd stared, silent accomplices. Then she turned, eyes sharp as gunmetal, and opened a badge that gleamed in the sunlight. FBI. The same woman he tried to humiliate had just ended his career. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The Florida sun beat down on the pristine pool deck as Lena Carter adjusted her white one-piece swimsuit. She'd chosen this resort carefully, saving for months to give Micah the perfect vacation. The brochures had promised luxury and relaxation, a chance to forget about work and just be a mom for a week. "Mom, watch this," Micah called out, his dark skin glistening with pool water as he practiced his swimming strokes. His excitement made her smile, though she couldn't quite shake the weight of the stares around them. The pool area was crowded with guests, most of them white and well-dressed, their designer swimwear and expensive sunglasses marking them as regulars at places like this. Lena noticed how they whispered behind their hands, how they pulled their bags closer when she walked past. "Your form is getting really good, baby," she called back, trying to focus only on her son's joy. Micah had been looking forward to this trip for weeks, talking non-stop about the water slide and the fancy room service menu. Earlier, during check-in, Victor Larrabee's smile hadn't reached his eyes as he'd looked over their reservation. "And you're staying here?" he'd asked, his tone making the question feel like an accusation. "Yes," Lena had replied simply, sliding over her platinum credit card. 7 nights, ocean view room. She'd kept her voice steady, professional, the same tone she used during investigations at work, the same tone she'd learned to use when people questioned her right to exist in spaces like this. Now, as she reclined on the cushioned lounge chair, Lena watched Micah paddle to the pool's edge. He was clutching his favorite waterproof camera, the one he'd gotten for his birthday. "Mom, I got some great underwater shots," he exclaimed, his face lit up with pride. A server passed by, deliberately avoiding eye contact as he delivered drinks to the surrounding chairs. Lena had been trying to order a lemonade for the past hour, but somehow the staff kept missing her raised hand. The woman on the next chair over pulled her designer bag closer and whispered something to her husband. It was a familiar dance, the sideways glances, the muttered comments, the subtle shifts away. Lena had dealt with it her entire life, but it still stung, especially when Micah was with her. "Can I have another popsicle?" Micah asked, climbing out of the pool. Water dripped from his swim trunks as he padded over to her chair. "Of course, baby. Just one more, though. We don't want to spoil dinner." Lena handed him a few dollars from her bag. She watched as he carefully made his way to the snack bar, his shoulders straight and confident, despite the looks he received. The afternoon sun was starting to soften, casting long shadows across the deck. Lena had just begun to feel her muscles truly relax when she heard it, the distinctive crackle of police radios. The sound cut through the gentle splash of pool water and ambient chatter like a knife. Her head turned sharply toward the entrance, years of training kicking in before she could stop it. The peaceful feeling she'd been cultivating all afternoon evaporated instantly. 2 officers were walking onto the pool deck, their badges glinting in the sun. Behind them, Lena caught sight of Victor Larrabee, the hotel manager, pointing in their direction with that same condescending smile from check-in. "Micah," she called out quietly, her eyes not leaving the approaching officers. Her son was still at the snack bar, counting out his change. The elderly cashier was watching him with suspicious eyes, as though he might steal something. The radios crackled again, and Lena's hand instinctively moved toward her bag. She'd left her badge and credentials in the room safe, not wanting any reminders of work during their vacation. Now, as the officers made their way through the maze of lounge chairs, she wished she'd kept them closer. She could feel the other guests' attention shifting, their conversations dying down as they realized something was about to happen. Some were already pulling out their phones, eager to capture whatever drama was about to unfold. Micah was walking back now, a bright blue popsicle in his hand. He hadn't noticed the officers yet, his face still peaceful and happy. Lena's heart clenched. This was supposed to be their escape, their chance to just exist, without the weight of the world's prejudices. The familiar mix of anger and resignation rose in her chest as the officers drew closer. She'd seen that look in their eyes before, that mixture of authority and assumption, the way they'd already decided who didn't belong. The radio static cut through the air again, sharp and intrusive. Like a slap across the face, it shattered the last remnants of their peaceful afternoon. Lena's body tensed, her mind shifting from vacation mode to something else entirely. Her calm expression hardened into a mask of controlled awareness as she watched the officers approach, their boots heavy on the concrete deck. Officer Kellum's heavy footsteps echoed across the pool deck as he approached, Officer Pike following closely behind. Victor Larrabee hovered anxiously at their shoulders, his polished manager's smile now tinged with something darker. "Afternoon, ma'am," Kellum drawled, positioning himself to block the sun. His shadow fell across Lena's chair like a threat. "We've received complaints about non-guests using the facilities." Lena sat up straighter, keeping her movements deliberate and calm. Around them, conversations had died down to whispers. The only sounds were the gentle lapping of pool water and the steady drip from Micah's wet swimsuit as he stood frozen, blue popsicle melting down his hand. "I'm a registered guest," Lena said evenly. She reached for her pool bag, noting how Kellum's hand twitched toward his belt. "I can show you my room key." "That won't be necessary," Victor cut in smoothly. "I'm sure we can clear this up quickly. These officers are just doing their job, following up on concerns from other guests about unauthorized individuals." Pike shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting between Kellum and Lena. "Standard procedure, ma'am. We just need to verify." "I need to see some ID," Kellum interrupted, his voice carrying across the deck. More phones appeared, recording the scene. "And proof of stay." Lena pulled out her room key card, holding it up. "Room 742. Checked in this afternoon for a week's stay." Kellum barely glanced at it. "That could belong to anyone. We've had problems with people borrowing key cards. Real ID, please." The way he emphasized real made Lena's jaw tighten. She could feel Micah trembling slightly beside her, his popsicle forgotten and dripping onto the concrete. "Mom?" Micah's voice was small, uncertain. "It's okay, baby," Lena assured him, though she could feel the situation balancing on a knife's edge. She reached for her wallet, but Kellum suddenly moved closer, his fingers wrapping around her wrist. "Let's speed this up," he said, his grip firm. "We've got other calls waiting." The touch was deliberate, a power play meant to establish dominance. Lena could feel the eyes of every guest on them, could hear the whispered comments and the soft beeps of phone cameras recording. Something in her snapped, not with anger, but with cold, precise purpose. She turned her wrist in his grip, not pulling away but adjusting the angle to make his hold obviously aggressive to any watching cameras. "Officer Kellum," she said, reading his nameplate with deliberate clarity, "you're going to want to remove your hand." His fingers tightened. "That sounds like interference with—" Lena's free hand moved to her bag, pulling out a leather wallet. With one smooth motion, she flipped it open, revealing the golden shield inside. FBI Special Agent Lena Carter, Civil Rights Division. The silence that fell over the pool deck was absolute. Even the splashing stopped, as if the water itself was holding its breath. Kellum's hand dropped from her wrist as if burned. Pike took an involuntary step backward, her face draining of color. Victor Larrabee's perfectly maintained smile cracked completely. We didn't, Pike stammered, her professional demeanor crumbling. We were just responding to a call. Agent, Kellum cut in, his voice tight with humiliation. You understand we have protocols. I understand exactly what's happening here, Officer Kellum, Lena replied, her voice carrying clearly across the now silent deck. And I suggest you think very carefully about your next move. Micah had pulled out his own camera now, his hands steady as he recorded everything. The pride in his eyes as he looked at his mother made Lena's heart swell. Just a misunderstanding. Victor jumped in, his words tumbling over each other. The hotel certainly meant no offense. We value all our guests, of course. Of course, Lena echoed, letting the words hang in the air like an accusation. Pike was already backing away, tugging at her partner's sleeve. We should go. Clearly there's been a mistake. But Kellum stood his ground for a moment longer, his face flushed with a dangerous mixture of embarrassment and anger. His hand moved to his radio, and he turned slightly away, speaking in low tones. Copy that. We'll handle it our way. The words were quiet, meant only for whoever was on the other end. But in the tense silence of the pool deck, they carried clearly. Lena watched him carefully, noting every detail of his posture, his expression, the way his fingers clenched and unclenched at his sides. The officers finally turned to leave, Pike practically scurrying away, while Kellum maintained a forced casualness in his stride. At the gate, he paused and looked back over his shoulder. His grin was sharp and personal, not the frustrated grimace of a man who'd made a mistake, but the calculated smile of someone already planning his next move. Around the pool, conversations slowly resumed, but with a different tone now. The phones were still out, but the whispers had changed from judgment to speculation. Lena could feel the shift in the atmosphere, but she couldn't relax. That smile, that radio call, this wasn't over. The Florida sun was setting, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples that reflected off the pool's surface. Lena and Micah had returned for an evening swim, trying to salvage what remained of their vacation day. Micah splashed in the shallow end while Lena watched from a lounger, her nerves still on edge from the afternoon's confrontation. "Mom, watch this," Micah called out, preparing to demonstrate his newest dive. But before he could jump, the clicking of boots on concrete caught Lena's attention. Officer Pike approached, clutching a manila envelope to her chest like a shield. Her face was pale, her steps hesitant. Behind her, at the pool gate, Officer Kellum leaned against a palm tree, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold with obvious satisfaction. "Agent Carter," Pike said softly, her voice barely carrying over the pool's filter system. "I need to serve you with this paperwork." Lena stood slowly, positioning herself between Pike and Micah. "What paperwork?" Pike's hands trembled slightly as she pulled out an official-looking document. "This is a county-issued trespass warning. The hotel management has requested that you vacate the premises immediately." "Excuse me?" Lena's voice was sharp enough to make Pike flinch. "I'm a paying guest with a week's reservation. I understand that, but these are my orders." Pike couldn't meet Lena's eyes. "The hotel has the right to refuse service." "This is retaliation," Lena stated flatly. "Pure and simple." Micah had climbed out of the pool now, water dripping around his feet as he moved closer to his mother. His young face was a mixture of confusion and worry. "I'm just following orders," Pike mumbled, thrusting the papers forward. "Please don't make this more difficult." From his position by the gate, Kellum's smirk grew wider. He made no move to approach, content to watch his partner do the dirty work. Victor Larrabee materialized from the shadows of a nearby cabana, his manager's mask firmly in place. "Is there a problem here?" "You tell me." Lena turned to face him. "Did you authorize this trespass warning?" Victor raised his hands in a gesture of false helplessness. "There seems to be some confusion. Perhaps if we could discuss this privately." "No more private discussions," Lena declared, her voice carrying across the pool deck. "You're using local law enforcement to enforce discriminatory policies." "That's a serious accusation," Victor said smoothly. "We simply had some concerns about disturbances." "What disturbances?" Lena challenged. Several guests had stopped their evening swims to watch the confrontation unfold. Pike shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, if you could just sign here." "I will not be signing anything," Lena stated firmly. "And I suggest you all consider very carefully what you're doing here." Kellum finally pushed off from his tree, sauntering closer. "Having some trouble, Pike?" "Stay back," Lena warned, her hand instinctively moving to guide Micah behind her. "You've done enough damage for one day." "Just doing our job, Agent." Kellum's voice dripped with mock respect. "Keeping the peace." Lena took the papers from Pike's trembling hands, making sure her movements were captured by the security cameras mounted around the pool area. "I'll have my attorney review these. Now, if you'll excuse us, my son and I are going to our room, the one we've legally paid for." She gathered their belongings with precise movements, while Micah wrapped himself in a towel. His earlier joy completely evaporated. They walked with dignity past the officers, past Victor's manufactured concern, past the staring guests. In their room, Micah sat on the edge of his bed, still in his damp swimsuit. "Mom, why do they want us to leave?" Lena knelt in front of him, taking his small hands in hers. "Some people, baby. They let fear and hate make their decisions for them. But we're not going anywhere. Are we in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. They're the ones in trouble. They just don't know it yet." She helped him change into his pajamas, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy as she tucked him into bed. But her instincts were screaming when she caught movement on their fourth-floor balcony through the curtains. Moving carefully to the window, she peered out. Kellum stood in the parking lot below, talking animatedly with two men in hotel security uniforms. He pointed up toward their balcony, then made a gesture that looked distinctly like someone breaking down a door. Lena's heart rate quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "Hey, Micah, how about we have a little sleepover? Both beds in my room tonight?" "Really?" His face lit up, momentarily forgetting the tension of the evening. "Really? Grab your pillow." Once Micah was settled in her room, Lena did a methodical check of every entry point. She slid the heavy security bar into place on the balcony door, tested the windows, and double-checked the main door's chain and deadbolt. Standing in the darkness of her room, listening to Micah's steady breathing, she whispered into the silence, "You picked the wrong woman." The digital clock on the nightstand blinked 2:17 a.m. when Lena heard it. The subtle sound of metal against metal. Someone was testing her door handle. She was already moving before her conscious mind caught up, years of training taking over. The carpet muffled her footsteps as she eased out of bed, careful not to wake Micah. Her gun safe was already open, the weapon secured at her hip. The handle rattled again. Longer this time. More deliberate. Lena pressed herself against the wall beside the door, her breath steady and controlled. The peephole's fish-eye lens revealed Officer Kellum's face, distorted but unmistakable in the hallway's dim light. A hotel security guard stood beside him, nervously fingering his radio. "Try it again," Kellum whispered, his voice carrying through the door. "Could have sworn I heard movement." The guard reached for the handle but hesitated. "Sir, without probable cause." "Just do it," Kellum hissed. "We got a tip about suspicious activity, remember?" Lena's jaw clenched. She could end this right now, throw open the door, badge raised, demand explanations. But that's what they wanted. A confrontation. A reason. The guard's hand dropped away from the handle. Maybe we should wait for day shift. Scared of one woman? Kellum's sneer was audible. But after a moment, he stepped back. Fine. We'll handle it another way. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. Lena remained motionless for 5 full minutes, listening to the hotel's night sounds, distant ice machines, the hum of air conditioning, Micah's soft breathing from the bed. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. Morning light filtered through the curtains when Lena marched down to the front desk, Micah close at her side. She'd made sure he had his tablet with him, loaded with his favorite games. This wasn't a conversation for young ears. The desk clerk's smile faltered when Lena approached. "How may I help you?" "I need to report an incident from last night," Lena said, her voice professionally calm. "Officer Kellum and one of your security staff attempted to enter my room at approximately 2:15 a.m. I want to file a formal complaint." "One moment, please." The clerk's fingers flew over her keyboard. Then she picked up a phone. Minutes later, Victor Larrabee emerged from a back office, straightening his tie. "Ms. Carter," he said, emphasizing the Ms. rather than her title. "I understand you have some concerns?" "Agent Carter," she corrected firmly. "And yes, your security staff and Officer Kellum were at my door in the middle of the night. I want to see the hallway camera footage." Victor's expression was a masterpiece of practiced concern. "I've checked with our night team. No officer was present on the property after midnight. Perhaps you were dreaming." "I was wide awake," Lena said. "Check your cameras." "Unfortunately," Victor spread his hands apologetically, "our surveillance system was under scheduled maintenance last night. No footage is available." Lena leaned forward slightly. "Scheduled maintenance? During peak season? On the exact night an officer harasses a guest? If you're implying something—" Victor's smile tightened. "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Facts that will be included in my report." "Report?" A muscle twitched in Victor's jaw. "To whom?" "That's not your concern." Lena turned away, then paused. "Oh, and Victor? I'd strongly suggest you preserve any security footage you do have. All of it. Destroying evidence is a federal offense." Back in their room, Lena waited until Micah was absorbed in his tablet before making the call. Rita Navarro answered on the third ring. "This better be good, Lena. It's not even 9. "Just wanted to log something strange." Lena kept her voice casual, aware of Micah's presence. "Having an interesting vacation in Clearwater Beach." "Strange how?" Navarro's tone sharpened. Lena outlined the events: the pool confrontation, the trespass warning, the night visit. Navarro listened without interrupting. "You think it's coordinated?" "The timing's too perfect," Lena said. "The missing footage, the sudden complaints, the way Kellum knew exactly who to call after seeing my badge." "Mercer County," Navarro mused. "There have been whispers about their sheriff's department. Civil rights complaints that never stick. Asset forfeitures that seem too convenient. Should I push?" "Not yet," Navarro advised. "You're off duty, alone, with your son. Document everything, but stay quiet. Let them think they've won. If there's really something here, we'll handle it through proper channels." "Understood." Lena watched Micah laugh at something on his screen. "I'll keep my head down." "Good. And Lena? Be careful. Small-town machines can be brutal when threatened." The call ended, and Lena sat on the edge of her bed, studying her son. He was still in his Captain America pajamas, legs crossed, completely absorbed in his game. So innocent, so unaware of the dark currents swirling around them. She wanted to pack their bags, drive home, forget this whole mess. But that would mean letting them win. letting every other family they'd targeted continue to suffer. Her badge meant something, a promise to protect, to serve, to fight injustice wherever she found it. Even on vacation. Micah looked up from his tablet. "Can we get breakfast, Mom? I'm starving." "Of course, baby," Lena forced a smile. "Let's get dressed and find some pancakes." A sharp knock jolted Lena awake. The bedside clock showed 8:47 a.m. Another knock, more insistent this time. "Coming!" She grabbed her robe, checked that Micah was still sleeping, and moved to the door. Through the peephole, she saw a woman in her mid-30s holding a clipboard, wearing a lanyard with a state ID. Lena opened the door cautiously. "Can I help you?" "Agent Carter, I'm Sarah Matthews from Child Protective Services." The woman's voice was professionally neutral. "We received a report concerning your son, Micah." "May I come in?" Lena's stomach dropped, but her face remained composed. "Of course. Let me wake him." She led the social worker into the room's small sitting area, then gently roused Micah. "Baby, wake up. There's someone here who needs to talk to us." Micah rubbed his eyes, looking confused. "Mom?" "It's okay, sweetheart. Just answer Ms. Matthews's questions honestly. All right?" The CPS worker sat down, arranging her papers. "We received a report that Micah was left unsupervised near the pool yesterday for an extended period. The complaint suggests this is part of a pattern of neglect." "That's absolutely false," Lena said firmly. "I was with him the entire time. There are dozens of witnesses." "Including the police officers who were called?" Matthews asked, pen poised. "Yes, actually. They can confirm I was present." As if summoned by his mention, a familiar voice came from the open doorway. "Everything okay in here?" Officer Kellum leaned against the doorframe, his badge catching the morning light. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Just following up on a concern," Matthews said. "Do you have any insight into this situation, officer?" "Well," Kellum drawled, stepping uninvited into the room, "I did observe some concerning behavior yesterday. The child was running around unsupervised while his mother was—" He paused meaningfully. "Otherwise occupied." "That's a lie," Lena said, her voice tight. "I never left Micah's side." "You know that. Maybe I can help straighten things out," Kellum offered, his fake helpfulness making Lena's skin crawl. Matthews looked between them, clearly sensing the tension. "Perhaps we should speak privately, officer." They stepped into the hallway. Through the partially open door, Lena could hear Kellum's low voice, couldn't make out the words but recognized the tone, the same one he'd used when calling in her trespass warning. Micah moved closer to her on the couch. "Mom, why are they lying about you?" "Because some people abuse their power when they think they can get away with it," Lena said quietly. "But we know the truth, right?" He nodded, then reached for his tablet. "I recorded yesterday. The whole thing." Lena smiled, proud of her tech-savvy son. "Good boy." Matthews returned, looking troubled. She interviewed Micah separately, asked about their home life, his school, their routine. Micah answered clearly and confidently, describing their normal life back in Atlanta, his friends, his teachers, the neighbor who watched him after school while Lena worked. "And yesterday?" Matthews prompted. "Where was your mom while you were at the pool?" "Right next to me," Micah said firmly. "She never leaves me alone near water. That's our #1 rule." After nearly an hour, Matthews packed up her notes. "I'll need to file a report, but I don't see any immediate cause for concern. Please remain available for follow-up questions." When she left, Lena closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a long breath. Through the door, she heard Kellum talking to Victor in the hallway. "If she's got a kid, she's got a weakness," Kellum said softly. "Just keep the pressure on." That evening, after Micah was asleep, Lena opened her laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, searching public records and police databases she had access to through her FBI credentials. Sheriff Doyle Mercer's website appeared, showing a middle-aged white man with steel-gray hair and a practiced politician's smile. His biography touted his 30 years of service, his tough-on-crime stance, his community involvement. But Lena remembered other details, whispers in the bureau about his department, civil rights violations swept under the rug, asset forfeitures that seemed to target specific demographics, a pattern of harassment complaints that never stuck because witnesses suddenly changed their stories or moved away. She dug deeper, cross-referencing cases. The same names kept appearing. Officer Brad Kellum, frequent arresting officer. Victor Larrabee, character witness. Sheriff Mercer, presiding over it all from his county throne. A knock on her door made her jump, but it was just housekeeping, offering fresh towels. Lena declined, double-checked the locks, and returned to her research. The more she read, the clearer the picture became. Mercer County wasn't just corrupt, it was organized. The sheriff's department worked with local businesses to maintain standards. Those standards apparently included keeping certain people away from luxury properties through selective enforcement and intimidation. She found newspaper articles about families who'd lost cars during vacation stops, homes seized over minor infractions, businesses that mysteriously failed inspections until they changed owners. All perfectly legal on paper. All connected to Mercer's department. Lena stared at her laptop screen, the sheriff's smiling face filling the page. "Mercer County?" she muttered. "Of course." The morning sun cast long shadows across the resort's courtyard as Lena sat on a bench, watching Micah play with his drone near the fountain. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, noticing security cameras tracking their movements and hotel staff whispering into radios. A gentle voice broke through her thoughts. "Mind if I join you?" An elderly black woman stood beside the bench, her silver hair neatly styled, wearing a floral dress and carrying herself with quiet dignity. "Please," Lena gestured to the empty space. "I'm Ruth Ann Delaney," the woman said, settling beside her. "I saw what happened yesterday at the pool. Those officers had no right." Lena studied her carefully. "You were there?" "Third umbrella from the left," Ruth nodded. "I see a lot from that spot. Been coming to this resort for 15 years, back when they still treated everyone with respect." She pulled a small notebook from her purse. "I keep track of things. Old teacher's habit, I suppose." Ruth opened the notebook, revealing neat handwriting documenting dates, times, and incidents. Last month, a black family from Atlanta checked in. By dinner, they were in handcuffs, accused of using fake credit cards. Their cards were perfectly real. The charges were dropped, but their vacation was ruined. Lena leaned closer, scanning the entries. "You've documented all of this?" "Every incident for the past 3 years," Ruth confirmed. "Names, dates, outcomes. Most folks just want to forget it happened. Move on. But I taught history for 42 years. The things we forget are the things that keep happening." A young man in a hotel uniform approached their bench, carrying a tray of water glasses. As he bent to offer them drinks, he whispered, "Service entrance. 10 minutes. I have something you need to see." Lena checked her watch. "Micah, time to charge the drone." They met the bartender, Alex, according to his name tag, behind a row of recycling bins. His hand shook as he passed Lena a thick manila envelope. "It's the deny list," he said quietly, glancing over his shoulder. "They make us memorize these names, these profiles. If anyone matching the descriptions tries to check in, we're supposed to say we're fully booked." Lena opened the envelope. Pages of names, sorted by zip codes, predominantly from minority neighborhoods. Notes in the margins. High-risk demographic. Maintain property standards. Redirect to alternative venues. "They'll fire me if they know," Alex said. "They won't," Lena assured him. "Thank you." Back in their room, Lena spread the documents across the bed, while Micah connected his drone to the TV. "Mom, look at this!" The drone's footage filled the screen, a high-angle view of the service area from yesterday morning. Officer Kellum stood by the delivery entrance, looking nervous. Victor Larrabee emerged, handed him a thick envelope. Money changed hands, quick and practiced. "I was testing the new camera when they came out," Micah explained proudly. "The drone was so high up, they never saw it." Lena hugged him tight. "You're brilliant, baby. But listen, this is very important evidence. We need to be careful with it." She helped him download the footage to her secure cloud storage and a flash drive. "This copy goes in your special place," she said, watching him tuck the drive into a hidden compartment in his toy box. Ruth returned that afternoon with more witnesses, other long-term guests and residents who'd seen the pattern. They gathered in Lena's room, speaking in low voices about similar incidents. Black families harassed, Latino guests suddenly facing criminal charges, Middle Eastern tourists finding their reservations mysteriously canceled. "It's not just this hotel," an elderly man explained. "The whole county works this way. Sheriff Mercer calls it community standards enforcement." Lena took detailed notes, her FBI training kicking in. "Has anyone ever filed formal complaints?" "Those who tried faced retaliation," Ruth said. "Sudden tax audits, traffic stops, building code violations. The message was clear: stay quiet or suffer." "But you didn't stay quiet," Lena observed. Ruth's eyes sparked. "I taught children about civil rights for 4 decades. What kind of example would I set if I turned away now?" They were interrupted by a soft beep. Micah's drone hovering outside their balcony. He guided it in skillfully, landing it on the coffee table. "Got more footage," he announced. "Officer Kellum's back, talking to hotel security by the pool." Lena felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. Her son was gathering evidence like a natural investigator, but she worried about the risks. "You record everything from now on," she told him, helping him save the new footage. "But be careful. Don't let them see the drone. And if anyone asks what you're doing, I'm just playing with my toys," he finished, grinning. As their witnesses left one by one, Ruth lingered. "We've been waiting for someone like you," she said softly. "Someone who could fight back." "I'm not looking for a fight," Lena replied. "I'm looking for justice." Ruth squeezed her hand. "In places like this, they're the same thing." Lena watched Micah preparing his drone for another flight, his small hands confident on the controls. She thought about all the families who'd been harassed, humiliated, driven away, about the corrupt system that believed it could operate with impunity. "One more thing," Ruth said from the doorway. "I forgot to mention, I was also on the county education board for 30 years. I know where they keep the real records." The morning heat shimmered off the pool deck as Lena sat with Micah at their usual spot, pretending to read while keeping watch. She'd positioned them near the security cameras, making sure every interaction was recorded, assuming Victor hadn't tampered with those, too. A shadow fell across their chairs. "Beautiful morning for a swim, isn't it?" Lena looked up to find a tall man in a tan sheriff's uniform, his badge gleaming in the sunlight. Sheriff Doyle Mercer stood before them, hands resting casually on his gun belt. His smile was practiced, politician perfect, but his eyes were winter cold. "Sheriff," Lena acknowledged, subtly pressing record on her phone. "Just doing a routine follow-up on some recent incidents," Mercer drawled, his voice honey-sweet with menace. "Mind if I join you?" Without waiting for an answer, he pulled up a chair. Officer Kellum positioned himself behind Mercer, arms crossed, smirking. "Micah," Lena said calmly, "why don't you go test your drone by the garden?" Her son hesitated, looking between her and the officers. She gave him a reassuring nod, and he grabbed his drone case, walking slowly away, but staying within sight. "Smart boy," Mercer observed. "Protective of his mama. Must be hard, raising him alone. The implied threat made Lena's jaw tighten, but she kept her voice steady. "What can I help you with, Sheriff?" "Just clearing up some paperwork." He pulled out a folder. "Seems we've had some confusion about credentials being displayed. Protocol requires us to verify any federal identification presented during civilian encounters." "You're welcome to contact the FBI field office in Tampa," Lena replied. "They'll confirm my status." Mercer's smile didn't waver. "Oh, we'll do that. But you understand, until everything's verified, we'd hate for there to be any misunderstandings. Things can get complicated real quick in small towns." "Is that a threat, Sheriff?" "Just friendly advice. We take impersonating law enforcement very seriously here." He leaned forward, dropping his voice. "Course, if you decided to cut your vacation short, head home early. Well, that might save everyone a lot of trouble." Lena met his gaze. "I've paid for my full stay. I intend to use it." "Shame." Mercer stood slowly. "Officer Kellum here noticed your taillight looks a bit cracked. We'd hate to have to impound your vehicle for safety violations. Streets around here can be dangerous after dark." "Everything's being recorded," Lena said quietly. "Security cameras, my phone, witnesses. Cameras malfunction. Phones get lost. Memories get fuzzy." Mercer adjusted his hat. "Ask around. Folks here understand how things work." "Well, most folks." He nodded to Kellum, who grinned like a shark. "Have a pleasant day, ma'am. Do consider what we discussed." As they walked away, Lena noticed Officer Pike hanging back, shifting nervously from foot to foot. The young officer glanced at her departing colleagues, then quickly approached Lena's chair. "Agent Carter," Pike whispered, her face pale. I need you to know something." "Go ahead. You're not the first." Last summer, another federal agent, Treasury Department, started asking questions about asset seizures. He left town suddenly. His car was found abandoned near Tampa. Pike's hands trembled. "Nobody ever proved anything, but everyone knew," Lena finished. "The sheriff, he has connections everywhere. County commissioners, judges, business owners, they all benefit. Anyone who speaks up." Pike swallowed hard. "Just be careful." "Please." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can't sleep anymore." Pike's voice cracked. "I joined to help people, not—" She cut off as Mercer's cruiser horn blared. "I have to go." Lena watched Pike hurry away, her shoulders hunched. Through the cruiser's windshield, she could see Mercer watching, his smile thin as a blade. Micah returned with his drone, settling close to her. "Mom? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby." She pulled him into a hug, breathing in his familiar scent. "Just thinking." "They were trying to scare you," he said. "But you're not scared." "No," she agreed, though her heart raced. "I'm not scared. I'm angry." She scanned the pool area, noting the other guests pretending not to watch. Ruth sat at her usual spot, notebook open. The bartender, Alex, wiped the same glass over and over, eyes down. A family at the far end quickly gathered their things and left when Mercer had approached. So many people living in fear. So many silent witnesses to injustice. Lena pulled out her phone, reviewing the recording. Mercer's threats were careful, wrapped in plausible deniability, but the pattern was clear. Combined with Ruth's documentation, the deny list, Micah's drone footage, it was building into something bigger than simple harassment. She thought about Pike's warning, about the missing Treasury agent, about all the families who'd been driven away, their vacations ruined, their dignity stripped, about her son, watching and learning what it meant to stand up or back down. The pool water sparkled in the late morning sun, peaceful and blue. But Lena could feel the undertow of corruption pulling at them all, trying to drag them under. She wouldn't let it. Not this time. Not here. She opened her messaging app and started typing. Rita, I need everything you have on Mercer County asset forfeitures. All of it. And I need to know about a Treasury agent who disappeared last summer. Back in her hotel room, Lena paced while Micah slept soundly in the adjoining room. The recording of Mercer's threats played softly from her phone, his honey-coated menace filling the space between her footsteps. She'd listened to it 5 times now, analyzing every word, every inflection. Her hands shook slightly as she dialed Rita Navarro's number. Despite the late hour, Rita answered on the second ring. Lena? What's wrong? Everything. Lena kept her voice low, moving to the balcony and sliding the door mostly closed. Mercer showed up today, made threats wrapped in small-town pleasantries about credential verification, impounding my car, how dangerous the streets can be after dark. Did you record it? Every word. But there's more. Lena detailed everything. The trespass warning, the CPS visit, the mysterious envelope Kellum received, Pike's warning about the missing Treasury agent. This isn't just harassment, Rita. It's organized. They're using the badge to run a racket. She heard papers rustling on Rita's end. The Treasury agent, Marcus Reeves. Officially, he took a leave of absence, and his car was found abandoned. The investigation stalled. No body, no evidence of foul play. But his last known investigation involved tracking suspicious patterns in Mercer County asset forfeitures, hotels reporting suspicious guests, followed by traffic stops, drug dogs conveniently finding trace amounts, vehicles, and cash seized. Rita paused. The numbers were significant. Millions, potentially. Lena leaned against the railing, watching the dark waves roll in. They're targeting tourists, probably profiling them by race, running them off, taking their property. The hotel's in on it. They have a deny list, coded by race and zip code. Can you prove it? My son's drone caught Kellum taking an envelope from the hotel manager. I have the deny list. A retired teacher's been documenting patterns of harassment. And now Pike might be ready to talk. Pike? The female officer? She's scared, Rita. Says she can't sleep anymore. Approached me after Mercer left. Warned me about Reeves. Listen carefully. Rita's tone sharpened. You're not an agent right now. You're a citizen on vacation. Anything you do needs to be as a private person. No badge, no bureau resources. If this goes sideways, I need clean hands to help you officially. Understood. But I need guidance. What's admissible? As a private citizen, you can record conversations you're part of. Florida's 2-party consent law has exceptions for criminal activity. Document everything. Gather witnesses. Build the pattern. Rita took a breath. But Lena? Be careful. If they made a federal agent disappear, I know. But I can't walk away. Not now. Then we do this smart. No heroics. Evidence first, justice second. After ending the call, Lena texted Pike. Need to talk. Somewhere private. 20 minutes later, she sat in her car in the far corner of a Walmart parking lot, watching Pike's patrol car approach. The young officer parked 2 spaces away, engine idling. Lena got out, walked over, and slid into Pike's passenger seat. They sat in silence for a moment, watching late-night shoppers drift in and out of the fluorescent glow of the store entrance. I could lose everything, Pike finally said, staring straight ahead. My job, my pension, maybe worse. You're losing yourself already, Lena replied softly. I saw your face today when Mercer made those threats. That's not why you became a cop. Pike's hands tightened on the steering wheel. They make it seem normal at first, just keeping order, protecting the community. Then it's running off suspicious people, seizing cars on technicalities. The money flows up, kickbacks flow down. Anyone who questions it ends up like Reeves. Pike flinched. I didn't know. Not at first. But there were rumors. And then Kellum bragged one night when he was drunk. Said Reeves, got the message about being too curious. Help me stop them, Lena said. Not as an FBI agent. I'm just a citizen right now, but I need proof. They're meeting tomorrow night, Pike said. Mercer, Kellum, the hotel manager. They do it monthly. Divide up the takes. Plan new targets. She reached into her jacket, pulled out a small recording device. I bought this after what happened with Reeves. Never had the courage to use it. It's admissible if you're part of the conversation. Get them talking about quotas, kickbacks, targeting specific guests. Anything about Reeves. Pike's hands trembled as she held the recorder. If they catch me, I'll protect you. My contact at the U.S. Attorney's Office can arrange witness protection if needed. But this is your choice. I won't pressure you. Long minutes passed. Pike stared at the recorder, turning it over and over. I used to practice my oath in the mirror before graduation, she whispered. To protect and serve, to uphold the Constitution. I meant every word. She clicked the recorder on, then off. I haven't looked in mirrors much lately. It's not too late to be that officer again. Pike squared her shoulders. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, the sheriff's fishing cabin. They'll be drinking, talking freely. She tucked the recorder away. I'll get what you need. Be careful. Act normal. If anything feels wrong, just walk away. I won't run. Pike finally turned to meet Lena's eyes. I can't keep living like this. They worked out signal protocols and emergency contacts. When they finished, Pike started her engine. I should go. They sometimes track our GPS logs. Lena got out, watched Pike's patrol car pull away. The taillights glowed red in the darkness, like dying embers, before disappearing around a corner. For the first time since this started, she felt a fragile thread of hope. The evening air hung heavy with humidity as Lena sat in her rental car 3 blocks from Sheriff Mercer's fishing cabin. Her phone displayed Pike's location, a steady blue dot moving toward the meeting point. The clock read 7:55 p.m. A soft crackle came through her earpiece as Pike's recorder activated. Testing, Pike's whisper barely registered. Can you hear me? Loud and clear, Lena responded quietly, though she knew Pike couldn't hear her. This was one way, safer that way. Through the feed, she heard car doors, gravel crunching under boots. Male voices grew louder. Evening, Sheriff, Pike's voice carried clearly. Thought I'd drop off those reports you wanted. Join us, Pike. Mercer's honeyed drawl oozed through the connection. Having a little strategy session with Kellum here. Lena's hands tightened on the steering wheel as she listened. Ice clinked in glasses. Someone laughed. Kellum's distinctive snort. So what's the play with our FBI friend? Kellum asked. Paper rustled. Forms being passed around. Finish the paperwork tonight, Mercer said. His chair creaked as he leaned back. Make her wish she'd stayed quiet. Nobody comes into my county flashing federal credentials, especially not— Careful, boss, Pike interrupted. Maybe we shouldn't. What? State facts? Mercer chuckled. Look, it's simple. We got a system here. Hotels spot trouble. Call us. We handle it. They kick back a percentage of the increased revenue from better clientele. Everybody wins. Except the guests we target, Pike said softly. They shouldn't come where they're not wanted, Kellum snapped. Besides, most of them can afford to lose a car or two. Asset forfeiture's legal. We just help it along. Ice rattled again as Mercer took another drink. Larrabee's been good to us. 30% of additional revenue after we clear out the riffraff. Last month alone was 40 grand. And the Treasury agent? Pike asked. Lena held her breath. Silence stretched. Then Mercer spoke, voice hard. Reeves got curious about the wrong things. Made some wild accusations. decided to take an unexpected vacation. People do that sometimes. Speaking of vacations, Kellum said, what about Carter and her kid? CPS is ready to move. One anonymous call about an unstable mother threatening hotel staff. Mix in that trespass warning. They'll pull the kid for emergency evaluation. Few days of bureaucratic hell ought to teach her about respecting local authority. Lena's knuckles went white on the wheel. She forced herself to breathe slowly, steadily. That seems extreme, Pike ventured. Extreme would be her having an accident. Mercer's tone was casual. But we're civilized here. Just gonna make her life difficult until she leaves. Though if she pushes it... He left the threat hanging. Lena was already dialing Navarro. The AUSA picked up immediately. Tell me you got that, Lena whispered. Every word, Navarro confirmed. Admission of kickback schemes, threatening a federal agent, and that comment about Reeves? Pure gold. Enough to move? Almost. We need one more undeniable link. Something that ties the money directly to Mercer. Bank records? Written agreements? Anything physical. Through the earpiece, the meeting continued. Mercer was detailing tomorrow's targets. 3 families he wanted removed from different hotels. Pike's done enough, Lena said. Get her out before... A sharp knock interrupted her. Lena looked up to see hotel security at her car window, flanked by 2 deputies. Her stomach dropped. Agent Carter? The guard's voice was muffled through the glass. Management needs you to return to your room immediately. There's an urgent matter. She rolled down the window slightly. What matter? Policy violation. You need to check out tonight. Lena glanced at her phone. Pike's feed was still running, but she couldn't listen now. It's almost 9 p.m. Not our problem, ma'am. Please return to your room and pack. These officers will escort you. The drive back to the hotel was tense, a deputy cruiser ahead and behind her. In her ear, she could still hear pieces of Mercer's meeting, but she forced herself to focus on the immediate threat. They followed her to her room, standing in the hallway as she woke Micah and began throwing clothes into suitcases. The boy was groggy, confused. Mom! What's happening? We have to leave, baby. She kept her voice steady. Just a change of plans. But my drone... Pack it. She met his eyes significantly. Pack everything electronic very carefully. He understood, methodically gathering his devices and their stored evidence. A thunderstorm was building outside, the sky purpling with clouds. Lightning flickered in the distance as she hurried their bags down to the parking lot. 2 different deputies now waited by her car, hands resting casually on their weapons. Take I-75 north, one instructed. Don't stop in the county. Lena loaded the trunk, hugging Micah close. The first fat drops of rain began to fall, spotting the pavement with dark circles. She felt the weight of the deputy's stares as she helped Micah into the back seat. Through her earpiece, she heard Pike making excuses to leave the meeting. At least one piece of tonight's plan had worked. They had the recording. They had proof. The deputies watched as she got in and started the engine. Above, thunder rolled across the sky like artillery fire, promising another Florida storm. But they hadn't won. Not yet. They'd just given her more evidence of their corruption. The deputies still stood by her car, hands on their holsters, as she prepared to leave. The sky outside was bruised with the promise of another storm. The cheap motel room's digital clock blinked 5:47 a.m. Lena sat on the bed's edge, fully dressed, watching Micah sleep. They'd found this place just outside county lines. Basic, but clean. His drone and camera lay carefully packed beside their bags. A sharp knock jolted her. Through the peephole she saw uniforms, lots of them. Her heart clenched. Ms. Carter, Child Protective Services. Open the door immediately. She recognized the CPS worker from before, now flanked by 4 officers and a supervisor. Lena opened the door, keeping her voice low. "My son is sleeping. What's this about?" The supervisor stepped forward, papers rustling. "We have an emergency removal order. There are serious concerns about—" "What concerns?" Lena's tone was steel. "Threatening behavior, unstable conduct, potential endangerment." The woman glanced at her clipboard. "Reports of brandishing a weapon at law enforcement." "That never happened." Lena's hands trembled slightly. "My service weapon has been secured since arrival." One of the officers, not Kellum but clearly briefed by him, stepped forward. "We'll need that weapon as evidence, ma'am." Behind her, Micah stirred. "Mom, it's okay, baby." She tried to keep her voice steady. "Just some people who need to talk to us." The CPS supervisor moved past her into the room. "Micah, I'm Mrs. Walsh. We need you to come with us for a little while." "No." Micah sat up, fully awake now. "I want to stay with my mom." "This is illegal," Lena said. "I'm a federal agent. You can't—" "Your status is precisely the problem," Mrs. Walsh cut in. "Using federal authority to intimidate local law enforcement, displaying unstable behavior. That's a lie." Lena's voice cracked. "Everything you're saying is a lie." Two officers moved toward Micah while another blocked Lena's path. She could take them. Her training made that clear, but it would only prove their false narrative. "Mom!" Micah's voice pitched higher as they approached. "Baby, look at me." Lena fought to stay calm. "I'm going to fix this, I promise. You're brave, remember? Like we talked about?" He nodded, tears streaming. One of the officers reached for him. "Don't touch him." Lena's warning froze them. Let him pack his own things. Mrs. Walsh nodded reluctantly. They watched as Micah gathered his backpack, hands shaking but movements deliberate. He was protecting their evidence, just like they'd planned. "Your weapon, ma'am," the first officer insisted. Lena retrieved her gun safe from the closet, unlocked it. They logged her service weapon as evidence, still secured, never removed since their arrival. "You'll receive notice of the hearing within 72 hours, Mrs. Walsh said, leading Micah toward the door. "Until then?" "I love you, Mom," Micah called back. "I love you too, baby. Stay strong." The words felt like glass in her throat. The door closed. Through thin walls, she heard her son's footsteps fading, car doors slamming. Her phone buzzed. Navarro. "Lena!" The AUSA's voice was tight. "You've been placed on administrative suspension pending review. Orders just came down." "Rita, they took Micah. They're using CPS to—" "I know. We're trying to trace who initiated the order, but Mercer's got friends in family court. And, Lena—" Navarro paused. "The hotel surveillance footage? They're claiming a system glitch wiped everything from the past week." Lena sank onto the bed. "All of it?" "Total data loss, they say. Technically possible, but convenient," Lena finished. A knock at her door made her jump. Through the peephole, she saw Sheriff Mercer himself, wearing a satisfied smile. "I'll call you back," she told Navarro. She opened the door. Mercer stood relaxed, hands in his pockets. "Rough morning?" he asked pleasantly. "You won't get away with this." "Already have," he shrugged. "No footage, no weapon, no credibility. Even your bureau can't help you now. Just a suspended agent making wild accusations while experiencing a psychological episode." His smile widened. "Tragic, really. How it affects the children. My son will be well cared for by the system, for however long this takes." He straightened his badge. "See, you made a mistake thinking that badge of yours meant anything here. This is my county, my rules. You're dirty," she said softly, "and I'm going to prove it." "With what evidence?" "Face it, Agent Carter, you're done." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and check your bank account. Seems there were some suspicious transfers flagged. Your accounts are frozen pending investigation." He winked. "Policy. The door clicked shut behind him. Lena stood alone in the empty room, her hands trembling with rage and fear. They'd taken everything: her son, her weapon, her badge, her money, her evidence. She caught her reflection in the mirror. A mother without her child, an agent without authority, a witness without proof. But something else showed in her eyes. Something harder than fear, stronger than rage. Mercer thought he'd broken her, thought his machine of corrupt cops and bought officials could grind her down like all the others. He thought power meant victory. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Pike. "I still have the recording. And more. When you're ready." Lena's fingers curled into fists. She'd been investigating civil rights violations for years, but now she felt them in her bones. The weight of every parent they'd separated, every visitor they'd humiliated, every life they'd casually destroyed pressed against her chest. The room felt too small, too empty without Micah. His absence burned like a physical wound. But they'd made a critical error. They'd left her nothing to lose. "If they think I'm done," she whispered to herself, "they've never met a Carter." The morning sun filtered through Mrs. Delaney's lace curtains as Lena sat in the old teacher's living room. The house smelled of coffee and fresh-baked cornbread, but Lena couldn't eat. Her hands wrapped tightly around a warm mug, knuckles white with tension. "They took your boy?" Mrs. Delaney's voice was soft, but carried steel beneath the gentleness. "Using the system against his own mama? They took everything." Lena's voice cracked. "My badge, my credibility, even froze my accounts. But Micah," she set the mug down before her trembling hands could spill it. "That's what breaks me." "No." Mrs. Delaney leaned forward in her floral armchair. "It won't break you. It'll fuel you." She pulled out a thick notebook, its pages yellow with age, corners soft from handling. "And you're not alone anymore." She opened the notebook, revealing neat handwriting spanning years. Every incident, every routine stop that wasn't routine, every tourist harassed, every local business pressured for protection money. Names, dates, details. She tapped the page. 20 years of watching, writing, waiting for someone strong enough to use it. Lena flipped through the pages, eyes widening. "Mrs. Delaney, this is— Call me Ruth Ann, child." The older woman pulled out her phone. "And watch this." Her fingers flew over the keypad, sending rapid-fire texts. "My Sunday school ladies. They've seen plenty. My bridge club. They've got stories. The whole Silver Palms retirement community has been watching that sheriff's department for years." Within minutes, her phone started buzzing with responses. Ruth Ann smiled. "See? The silver-haired army is ready." Lena's own phone vibrated. Pike's number. She answered on speaker. "Agent Carter?" Pike's voice was hushed. "I've got it all. The recording of Mercer giving orders, his text messages about the kickback scheme, photos of the cash handoffs." A pause. And something else. The hotel's IT guy? He kept a personal backup of the security footage. Everything they claimed was glitched. Ruth Ann's eyes sparkled. "Well, well. Pike, are you safe?" Lena asked. "I'm at my sister's in Tampa. But I'm ready to testify." I can't keep watching this happen." "Send everything to this email." Lena recited her secure address. "And Pike? Thank you." After hanging up, Lena called Navarro, putting her on speaker too. "I'm building the sealed case file now," the AUSA said. "Civil rights violations, conspiracy, extortion, witness tampering. But Lena," Navarro hesitated, "we need to do this right. If we move too fast, Mercer's connections could bury it." "The county board meeting," Ruth Ann said suddenly. "Tomorrow night. Public forum. Local media always there. Half my quilting circle sits on that board." Mrs. Delaney's right, Lena said. We need to make this too public to disappear. Full exposure, Navarro agreed. I'll have the sealed warrants ready. But Lena, you'll be front and center. Are you sure? They took my son. Lena's voice hardened. I'm done hiding. Ruth Ann was already on her phone again. Hello, Margaret? Yes, it's about tomorrow's meeting. Get everyone there. And I mean everyone. She winked at Lena. Tell them to bring their lawn chairs. Could be a long night. Over the next hours, Ruth Ann's living room became command central. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from retirees, winter residents, and longtime locals, all with stories, all ready to speak. Lena's email filled with Pike's evidence. Audio files, text screenshots, surveillance footage showing Mercer's department targeting tourists of color, demanding fees to avoid arrests. Look at this, Ruth Ann said, showing Lena her neighborhood group chat. Dozens of elderly residents were coordinating carpools to the board meeting. Margaret's bringing her famous peach cobbler. Says justice needs snacks. Lena couldn't help smiling, even through her worry for Micah. These weren't just witnesses. They were warriors in sensible shoes and sun hats. By late afternoon, Navarro had built an airtight federal case file. Pike's evidence proved the pattern of civil rights violations. The hotel footage showed clear coordination between Mercer's deputies and management. Ruth Ann's meticulous notes provided years of context and supporting incidents. We'll hit them from all sides, Navarro said during their final call. The warrants are ready. I'll have federal marshals standing by. Once you start the public testimony, Mercer won't be able to shut it down. Ruth Ann squeezed Lena's hand. This is how change happens, child. Not all at once, but when good people finally say, enough. Evening settled over the quiet neighborhood. Ruth Ann insisted Lena stay in her guest room rather than return to the motel. You need family tonight, she said simply. In the small bathroom, Lena stood before the mirror. Her reflection showed exhaustion, worry, but also determination. She thought of Micah, probably scared, but trying to be brave. She thought of every parent who'd face this machine alone. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted her FBI badge. The gold caught the light as she holstered it back onto her hip where it belonged. In the mirror, she saw not just herself, but Ruth Ann's army of seniors, Pike's courage, Navarro's law, and most importantly, Micah's future. Her voice was quiet, but unshakable. No more hiding. Morning sunlight washed over the county building's concrete steps as Ruth Ann's silver-haired army arrived in waves. They came in sensible shoes and sun hats, hauling lawn chairs and coolers full of sweet tea. Each carried a handmade sign, their messages clear and bold. Justice is not a vacation amenity. Badges don't make bullies right. Our town, our truth. Margaret from the Bridge Club set up a card table with her peach cobbler, serving slices to arriving protesters. Nothing says, "We're not leaving," like comfortable seating and good food, she declared, arranging paper plates with military precision. Mrs. Delaney moved through the growing crowd like a general reviewing troops. She wore her Sunday best, a powder blue suit with a pearl brooch, and carried her notebook like a weapon. Ellen, you and your group take the left steps. James, get your veterans on the right. We're framing this entrance like we mean business. Local news vans began arriving, reporters stepping out with microphones and cameras. The story was impossible to ignore. Dozens of elderly residents, many longtime voters and community pillars, staging a sit-in at the county building. Mrs. Thompson, a young reporter approached a silver-haired woman in her 80s. You've lived here 40 years. Why are you protesting today? Because silence is agreement, she replied firmly, adjusting her lawn chair. And we don't agree anymore. More media arrived. The crowd swelled. Ruth Ann's phone buzzed constantly with texts from more seniors on their way. The steps filled with lawn chairs, each occupied by a determined retiree, clutching a sign and sharing stories with reporters. "Tell them about your grandson, Marie," Ruth Ann encouraged a trembling woman. "Tell them how the sheriff's men treated him." Marie's voice grew stronger as she spoke to the cameras. "They arrested my grandson for asking why they stopped him. Charged him with resisting. Took his car, his savings, everything. Said it was evidence." Her hands gripped her sign tighter. "Not one more child." Lena watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling. These weren't just protesters, they were witnesses, finally breaking years of fearful silence. Their stories painted a clear picture. Systematic harassment, illegal seizures, targeted intimidation. A text from Navarro lit up her phone. "Ready when you are." Lena straightened her jacket and touched her badge for strength. Ruth Ann appeared at her elbow. "It's time, child. They need to hear your voice." The makeshift podium was simple, a small platform usually used for maintenance work. But as Lena stepped up, the crowd fell silent. Cameras swung toward her. In the morning light, her FBI badge caught the sun like a beacon. "My name is Special Agent Lena Carter," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed gathering. "A week ago, I came to your county for a vacation with my son. Instead, I found a system of organized corruption hiding behind badges and authority." She held up Ruth Ann's notebook. "But I also found courage. In these pages, in these people, in every senior citizen sitting here today who refused to look away. I found truth-tellers who've been waiting for someone to listen." The cameras moved closer. More reporters arrived, sensing a bigger story than a local protest. Sheriff Mercer and his department haven't been protecting and serving. They've been targeting and profiting, using badge numbers to bully, using power to steal, using fear to silence. Lena's voice grew stronger. "They took my son, thinking it would silence me. They were wrong." A murmur ran through the crowd. Phones recorded. Social media lit up. This isn't about one agent, or one child, or one incident. This is about every parent who's lost their savings to false charges, every tourist targeted for their skin color, every business paying protection to avoid harassment. She gestured to the seated seniors. These citizens have been keeping score. And today, we're calling in the debt. Ruth Ann started a slow clap. It spread through the crowd, building like thunder. Movement at the edge of the gathering caught Lena's eye. Sheriff Mercer had arrived, his face tight with barely controlled rage. He pushed through reporters, cameras swinging to capture his approach. "Agent Carter!" His voice was low, meant for her ears only, but the microphones caught every word. "You just signed your own warrant." Lena smiled, feeling the weight of Ruth Ann's notebook in one hand, her badge in the other, and the strength of every person seated behind her. "No, Sheriff," she replied clearly. "You did." The crowd's murmur grew louder. More phones appeared, streaming live. Ruth Ann stepped forward, holding her notebook high like a challenge. All around, seniors gripped their signs tighter, their faces set with decades of stored determination. The morning sun climbed higher, promising a long, hot day of truth-telling. But no one moved from their chairs. They had waited years for this moment, and they weren't going anywhere. Margaret sliced more cobbler, passing plates through the crowd. "Might as well be comfortable," she announced. "Justice takes time, but it sure tastes sweet when it comes." The cameras kept rolling, capturing every moment, every sign, every stern face that had finally found its voice. The story was spreading beyond local news now, picking up national attention. Mercer stood frozen, realizing too late that his carefully built kingdom was crumbling under the weight of sun hats and lawn chairs, cobbler and courage, truth and time. Black SUVs with federal plates rolled silently into position around the sheriff's office. More surrounded the resort, their tinted windows reflecting the morning sun. Inside each vehicle, tactical teams waited for Navarro's signal. At the protest, Mercer's radio crackled. His deputy's voice was tight with panic. "Sir, FBI's at the station. Lots of them." The sheriff's face drained of color. He grabbed his phone, but before he could dial, federal marshals emerged from the crowd. They'd been waiting, dressed as tourists, blending with the protesters. "Sheriff Doyle Mercer," the lead marshal announced, voice carrying across the suddenly silent gathering. "We have a federal warrant for your arrest." Cameras swung toward the action. Mrs. Delaney gripped her lawn chair, knuckles white. "Lord, have mercy," she whispered. "It's finally happening." At the resort, Agent Navarro herself led the technical team through the lobby. Victor Larrabee stumbled backward, stammering about needing to call corporate. "Your servers are now federal evidence," Navarro informed him, sliding a warrant across the front desk. "And those calls can wait." The hotel's IT room was locked. They breached it to find Officer Kellum inside, desperately trying to wipe a hard drive. He'd used his badge to gain access, claiming a security emergency. "Step away from the computer," an agent ordered, weapon drawn. Kellum raised his hands, face twisted with rage and fear. The technical team moved in swiftly. "Drive's still intact," one reported. "Amateur deletion attempt. We can recover everything." Back at the protest, Mercer fought the handcuffs. "This is my county," he snarled. "You have no jurisdiction here. Federal civil rights violations, corruption under color of law, conspiracy to commit fraud," the marshal recited, tightening the cuffs. "Your jurisdiction just got superseded." Mrs. Thompson stood shakily from her lawn chair. Other seniors followed. They formed a gauntlet leading to the waiting federal vehicles. Their signs held high like a judgment corridor. Navarro's voice came through the marshal's radio. "Hotel servers secured. We have the original pool footage, multiple angles. Payment videos recovered. Proceeding with additional arrests." The crowd parted as more federal vehicles arrived. Officer Kellum emerged from one, already cuffed, escorted by stern-faced agents. Victor Larrabee followed in another car, his hotel manager's blazer wrinkled, his usual smirk replaced by naked fear. "Walk them past the witnesses," Navarro instructed over the radio. "Let's make this very public." Margaret from the Bridge Club started humming "Amazing Grace." Others joined in, the hymn growing stronger as the arrested men were led through the gauntlet of seniors. Mrs. Delaney stood straight as a judge, her notebook raised like evidence. Camera flashes exploded around them. National news crews had arrived, their satellites broadcasting live. Reporters shouted questions, but the singing drowned them out. Lena watched from the crowd, tears streaming down her face. Ruth Ann squeezed her hand. "You did this," the older woman whispered. "You stood your ground." "We all did," Lena answered, voice thick with emotion. More arrests followed. Deputy after deputy emerged from the station in handcuffs as the federal raid expanded. Each one had to walk past the singing seniors, past the signs detailing their crimes, past the cameras capturing their shame. Kellum tried to duck his head, but Mrs. Thompson stepped forward. "Look at us," she demanded. "Look at all the people you thought were too old, too weak, too afraid to stop you." The singing grew louder. More residents arrived, drawn by the news broadcasts. They joined the gauntlet, adding their voices to the choir. Mercer, last to be led through, finally looked broken. His carefully maintained image of the powerful small-town sheriff crumbled under the weight of federal handcuffs and his neighbor's judgment. A young black family that had been watching stepped forward. "You turned us away last summer," the father said. "Said our car was suspicious. Took our vacation money as evidence." "We have your case file," a federal agent assured them. "Restitution is part of the warrant." Navarro appeared at the top of the steps, her federal prosecutor's badge catching the light. "Special Agent Carter," she called. "Would you join me?" Lena climbed the steps, wiping her eyes. Together they faced the cameras and the crowd. "Today, the Department of Justice is announcing multiple federal indictments," Navarro began. "But this investigation started with one mother who refused to be driven away. One agent who saw past her badge to her duty as a citizen. One community that found its voice." The singing faded to silence as Navarro continued. "We've recovered extensive evidence of civil rights violations, systematic discrimination, illegal seizures, and corruption at every level. But we also found something else." She gestured to the seated seniors, the gathered families, the united crowd. "We found courage." Lena watched the patrol cars and federal vehicles pull away, carrying Mercer, Kellum, and their corrupt machine to face justice. Years of power, washed away by sunlight and truth. The cameras kept flashing, recording history being unmade and remade. Ruth Ann touched her arm. "You're crying again, child." "Happy tears," Lena assured her. "Justice tears." The old teacher smiled, closing her notebook at last. "Those are the best kind." 2 hours after the arrests, a flash drive arrived at every major news station in Florida. The sender was anonymous, but the contents were explosive. Hundreds of emails between DA Clarissa Hightower and Sheriff Mercer, spanning years of corruption. In the newsroom of Channel 7, producers huddled around monitors, scrolling through message after damning message. "Sheriff, handled that forfeiture case like you asked. Charges dropped against the hotel. Campaign contribution received. Very generous. DA, need some creative prosecution on these troublemakers. Remember who funds your judge campaign. Mercer, delete this after reading. Those civil rights complaints? Buried. You owe me." The station manager grabbed his phone. "Get Hightower on air, now." At the courthouse, Lena stood with Navarro as they watched Hightower emerge from her office. The DA's usual polished appearance was cracking. Her hands shook as she checked her phone. "She knows," Navarro said quietly. "Watch." Hightower's assistant rushed up, whispering urgently. The DA's face went ash white. She grabbed the offered tablet, scrolling frantically through her exposed emails. "Those were sealed communications," she snapped at Navarro. "Actually," Navarro replied, "they were evidence in a federal corruption investigation. And now they're public record." A news van screeched to a halt outside. Reporters poured out, cameras already rolling. Hightower straightened her jacket, trying to summon her courtroom composure. "Madam District Attorney," they shouted. "Care to comment on the emails?" Hightower stepped to the microphones, her carefully maintained image dissolving under the harsh lights. I have always served this county with—" "The emails show you helped cover up racial profiling," a reporter cut in. "Buried civil rights violations for campaign donations." Live feeds captured her crumbling expression. Millions watched as she gripped the podium, her political dreams dying in real time. She swallowed hard. "I am announcing my immediate resignation as District Attorney of Mercer County." The cameras surged closer. Questions exploded. "Did you know about the hotel kickbacks? How long did you help Sheriff Mercer target minorities? Were you aware of the illegal seizures?" Hightower fled into her office, leaving her assistant to face the media storm. Inside the federal building, Officer Pike sat in a secure room, surrounded by U.S. Marshals. She'd been up all night, giving her full statement. page after page of testimony detailed years of systematic abuse. "And you're willing to testify to all of this?" the lead investigator asked. Pike nodded, exhausted but determined. Everything. The quotas, the profiling, the kickbacks. How Mercer trained us to target out-of-state plates, especially minorities. How the hotels would call us to remove undesirable guests. "You understand we'll need to relocate you," a marshal explained. "New identity, new start." "I understand." Pike managed a weak smile. "Feels like freedom, actually." Across town, in a federal conference room, Mrs. Ruth Ann Delaney carefully handed over her notebooks. Decades of meticulous records, dates, times, badge numbers, victim names, a handwritten history of injustice. "Been keeping these since '85, she told the evidence clerk. "Every traffic stop that didn't feel right. Every random search. Every tourist who got their vacation money taken as evidence." The clerk handled the notebooks reverently, logging each one. "This is incredible, ma'am. A pattern of behavior going back 40 years. Sometimes," Ruth Ann said softly, "bearing witness is all we can do. Until someone comes along who can make it matter." In the FBI field office, Lena sat waiting while her case file was reviewed. The suspension paperwork lay shredded in a basket. Her service weapon had been recovered from the sheriff's evidence locker, never actually logged. Deputy Director Matthews himself had called. "Agent Carter, your actions exemplified the highest traditions of the Bureau. Standing up to corruption isn't just your job, it's who you are." Navarro entered, carrying Lena's badge in its leather wallet. The metal gleamed, freshly polished. "The commendation will be official next week," Navarro said, sitting down. "Courage under pressure, they're calling it. Though personally, I'd go with refusing to be bullied by small-town tyrants." Lena smiled, remembering that first confrontation by the pool. It felt like years ago, not days. "You know," Navarro continued, sliding the badge across the desk, "most agents try to avoid working on vacation." "Injustice doesn't take holidays," Lena replied, running her fingers over the familiar shield. "How's Micah handling all this?" "Better than me. He's already talking about being an agent someday. Says he wants to help people stand up to bullies." Navarro nodded approvingly. "Like mother. Like son." She stood, straightening her jacket. "Next time," she said with a wry smile, "try to take your vacation somewhere quieter." Lena picked up her badge, feeling its comfortable weight. No promises. The Florida sun painted the Gulf waters in shimmering diamonds as Lena Carter guided her car through the resort's entrance gates. Everything looked the same: the swaying palms, the pristine white buildings, the carefully manicured gardens. But everything was different. "Look, Mom!" Micah pointed excitedly at the new sign near the check-in area. Dark bronze letters declared, "All guests welcome. No exceptions." Lena smiled, noting the federal compliance certification number etched below. The resort was under new ownership now, part of the settlement that had shaken Mercer County to its core. The valet who took their keys was black. So was one of the front desk managers. Small changes that spoke volumes. "Agent Carter!" The new general manager hurried over, extending her hand. "We've been hoping you'd return. Your suite has been upgraded, of course." "Thank you," Lena said, "but we'll keep our original room." She caught Micah's questioning look. "Some battles are worth remembering, baby." They walked through the lobby where, weeks ago, she'd faced down Mercer's intimidation. Now, families of all colors mingled freely. A Muslim couple in the cafe, an interracial family checking in, a Hispanic grandmother teaching her grandchildren Spanish by the fountain. "Mrs. Delaney!" Micah sprinted ahead toward the pool deck. The retired teacher sat in her usual spot, now marked with a small plaque. "Community Oversight Chair." Ruth Ann beamed, wrapping Micah in a warm hug. There's my brave young man. I saved you both some chairs. She'd become a fixture here since the changes. The resort had officially appointed her to oversee their new inclusion initiatives. Her quiet dignity and steel-spined determination made her perfect for ensuring history didn't repeat itself. The consent decree is working, Ruth Ann told Lena as they settled into the chaise lounges. Every complaint gets logged, every incident reviewed. No more unofficial policies. Lena nodded, watching Micah bounce excitedly near the pool's edge. And the county? Better. The interim sheriff is actually meeting with community leaders. Officer Pike's testimony opened a lot of eyes. Ruth Ann smiled. Amazing what sunshine can do to shadows. The pool deck buzzed with happy conversation. Children splashed and played. Nobody stared. Nobody questioned who belonged. Lena placed her badge on the small table beside her drink. Not hidden away, not brandished as a shield, just present, like any other part of who she was. The sun caught the metal, making it gleam. You know, Ruth Ann said, some of the seniors still talk about that day at the county building, when all those cameras caught Mercer and Kellum doing their perp walk. She chuckled. My arthritis acted up something fierce from all that cheering. The footage went viral, Lena remembered. Even made national news. Good. Let the whole world see what happens when people stand together against injustice. A splash of cool water hit Lena's legs. Micah grinned up from the pool, playfully guilty. Come on, Mom. The water's perfect. Give me a minute, baby. She turned back to Ruth Ann. How's the community fund coming along? Wonderful. We've already awarded 3 scholarships to local students, children of families who lost money to those illegal seizures. Seems fitting that Mercer's forfeiture accounts are now paying for education instead of oppression. More water splashed their way. Micah had found friends, a diverse group of kids playing Marco Polo, their laughter echoing across the deck. Your boy's doing just fine, Ruth Ann observed. Children are resilient when they see justice win. Lena watched Micah execute a cannonball, scattering his new friends in squealing delight. No trace remained of the fear he'd felt during those dark days. He'd learned something valuable, that standing up mattered, that right could triumph over might. The afternoon breeze carried the salt scent of the ocean. Somewhere beyond the resort, Pike was building a new life, protected by her courage to finally speak out. Hightower's resignation had triggered a complete overhaul of the DA's office. Mercer and Kellum awaited trial, their empire of intimidation dismantled piece by piece. You changed things here, Ruth Ann said softly. Not just the policies. You changed hearts. Showed people they don't have to accept wrong as normal. We all did, Lena corrected. Every witness who came forward. Every person who refused to stay silent. Another splash, bigger this time. Micah had perfected his cannonball technique. Mom, your turn, he called out. It's vacation time. Lena felt the warmth of the sun on her face, the peace of the moment settling into her bones. Her badge caught the light again. Not a weapon, not a warning, just a promise kept. She stood, smiling at Ruth Ann. Duty calls. Go on, the older woman laughed. I'll keep watch. Old habits die hard. Lena walked to the pool's edge where Micah waited, his face bright with uncomplicated joy. No cameras tracked their movements. No radios crackled with coded prejudice. Just the sound of children playing, families laughing, life flowing as it should. Ready? Micah asked, holding out his hand. The water sparkled, inviting and clear. Micah splashed her playfully again, and this time Lena laughed, a free, unguarded sound. Vacation, she said, squeezing his hand. Finally. She looked at their reflection in the pool, mother and son, standing tall, belonging exactly where they were. Peace, hard won through fire and courage, settled over them both like a gentle blessing. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.